was this Christmas that went by, and things were getting busy. I had to start buying presents for the family. I had finished shopping, but I still needed to wrap a present for my little cousin. She is not very hard to shop for since she is 4. She likes things like Peppa Pig and My Little Pony. She really liked, and I say liked for a reason, Max and Ruby, so when I decided to go looking for a present, I figured something like a Max and Ruby DVD would have been perfect since she liked to watch it on a daily basis. However, Christmas meant that most of the online DVDs were sold out in most places. I went to look on eBay as well, but I figured I could not trust what condition DVDs would have been in, so I was stuck in a rut for a while until that package arrived. Well, my disciples, we already got a cliche right here in this story that I particularly don't care for. Especially with the eBay cliche, like what you just heard in that narration. And to say it myself, I absolutely hate the cliche of, oh, I found it on eBay. That kind of bullcrap. And I don't care about that cliche there. That one is taking originality out of this story and just making it a cliche pile of garbage, that which it deserves to be on the Trollpasta wiki, that which is where I found this story. And you want to hear a true fact? I was actually scared of this story back when it first came out, back when I was a kid. So, to say my past self, why was I scared of this? If I saw that back in 2013 when I'm 18, though, if I was 18 back in 2013, I'd laugh at this story because it's a cliche pile of garbage that should have never got popular to begin with. And anyway, enough rambling, that which I'll review this cliche in its entirety. It's that never implement this cliche in your story no matter what. Don't say, oh, I got it from eBay, pawn shop, flea market, or any store, or even finding it randomly somewhere, like getting it from a creepy old man at a yard sale for 50 cents. But at least in this story, they at least got it without having to go to a store to acquire said film. But it's never elaborated in this story on who could have sent it to him, because it just appears out of nowhere, like later in the story, which I'll get to that. But we already have a problem here, and this cliche is making my blood boil anyway. This cliche is making my blood boil right now, and I've already gotten to this bit of paragraph in this story right now, that which is just going to get worse from here, so be ready for me raging at this story, and let's dive deeper into this cliche fest, shall we? Yes, let's go. I was at home still scrolling for a stupid DVD until I heard the sound of something being pushed through my letterbox. I caught a hold of it before my dog did and looked at the package. It seemed to be wrapped fairly badly, with what looked like grease marks and stains on it. Naturally, like anyone would, I decided to open the package. Inside was something that I could not explain. It was a Max and Ruby DVD, but I had not seen anything like it online. It was like some little kid had drawn on the front cover with a marker. The title was just Max and Ruby, with what looked like a poorly drawn illustration of Max and Ruby on the front. There was no names or anything, but on the back it had a list of 4 episodes, all with blunt titles. Episode 0001, Episode 0002, Episode 0003, and Episode 0004. I gave the DVD a watch over, and to my surprise, the episodes were all perfect quality, and it seemed to have no flaws. It was as if it was a real DVD, just with a homemade cover. The only thing I thought was odd was the episode selection screen. The episodes had names, but they were all called Max and Ruby 1, with the numbers being changed as it went down the list. The actual selection screen was just a plain white screen with black text in it, the episode list, and nothing else. After giving it much thought, I decided to change the cover to something a little nicer by printing out a DVD cover that I had found on Google and tracked down the names of the episodes so they were labeled correctly. I left the episode list screen alone because I figured it was self-explanatory. Well, my disciples, we just got another cliche that I absolutely hate, that which bothers me to the fullest extent. And that which, there's the cliche of everything being normal before everything goes wrong. That which, this cliche is a big no-no when doing lost episode creepypastas. People should not do this cliche, but there are some people who do not know how to write a story who do stuff like this, that which bothers me to the fullest extent of bother. And this story just did that cliche, and it's making me get angrier. I'm just angry about all this, because why does this cliche exist in the story, and just why? The story could have done something better, or just, heck, even leave it out. Just leave the cliche out and not include this cliche in the story. What was the author thinking when they were including that cliche? But still, I digress. With the cliche that I've mentioned, it's just that this cliche is just a no-no. A huge no-no. And whenever you do stories like this, just don't include that cliche at all. And it removes every ounce of originality in the story. And originality is what you need to make a story good and actually have creativity. But like some people are nowadays, they do this out of desperation in order to be famous, even though when they do this, they make a poorly made story. That which is just a big no-no. And think before you make these stories. Think of what you can do to make your story much better, and not sit there and make a poorly made story and then have it removed off of the creepypasta wiki, lost episode wiki, whatever it is you're posting your story onto. So listen to the Shadow Reader's rants, for example, on how to not make a good story, and what I just said. Just don't do anything that is cliche like this story. And this is going to be the part where I'm going to criticize the story as hard as I can, and it's just going to make me mad. Just angry, because this story, I don't understand why this story became popular. So, anyways, off to narrate the story. even more and lose more brain cells. So that's cliche number 2 to the cliche counter there. Christmas went by and things were fine. I gave my little cousin her DVD and she was happy with it all through Christmas, but that was only because she had not watched it yet. On Boxing Day, the family had gone out for a meal and left me to babysit my cousin. I was not too bothered about being left at home. I figured now was a good time to put on the DVD for her. I had put the DVD and let it play. While I was in the kitchen eating my dinner, from what I could hear, she had watched episodes 1 to 3 so far. So I just was about to finish off my noodles when I heard my cousin screaming from the other room, dropping everything. I ran into the living room and saw my cousin curled up on the floor screaming. I looked up at the TV and I felt my heart in my throat. What I caught a glimpse of was one of the most horrifying things I had ever seen. It was what appeared to be a frame of Max and Ruby standing next to each other in complete darkness. But what made it so horrible was their lack of faces. They had lost their noses and mouths apparently, and their eyes were replaced with big black holes. The colors were disgusting blood red, and there was a faint static in the background. The sound was replaced with what sounded like the Max and Ruby theme playing it backwards, with the faint sound of static in the mix of it all. It had to be the most disturbing thing I had ever seen, and it must have been on screen for at least 20 seconds before the screen went black and the DVD turned off, which alone was weird because DVDs don't usually turn off by themselves. I was able to calm my cousin down, telling her it was not real, and she just had a nightmare, and as she had fallen asleep in front of the DVD. However, in my mind, it was completely real. My God. This story is already starting to sound even more cliche because there's obviously the blood and gore not the blood and gore, but the reverse music and reverse cliche that I don't really care for, because that part of the story just makes me shake my head in complete agitation. And that which just this cliche right here with the reverse music in reverse. Really? It has music in reverse. And that which, can this story be any better than just having the reverse music cliche? That which, it's not even scary, it's funny. It's just laughable, to say the least. And I just wonder to myself, how's this even possible with the frickin' reverse music? But another one is because apparently this nephew of this cousin right here who's babysitting his or her cousin does nothing to comfort does nothing to comfort the cousin, and just does nothing. And that's what makes me shake my head. It's just that they don't do nothing to explain anything to the nephew, the cousin, just nothing. And of course they go investigate the DVD they got out of nowhere after it apparently scared their cousin. And because Parent of the Year here, people. Wow. Parent of the Year. Seriously. The story right here is that the grammar, I'll give it one thing that did right was the grammar, and just the storyline is just terrible. Just terrible, downright terrible, just laughable to say the least. And it's so unbelievable. And unbelievably cliched. So, onwards with this story, and that's another one for the cliche counter. My parents had rung me up and told me they were going to be out all night, so this was going to be the best opportunity to look at this DVD more closely. I did not mention it to them, and as soon as they hung up, I grabbed the DVD and stuck it in my laptop. As soon as it loaded, I noticed that episode 0004 had been replaced with Rest in Peace, Mommy and Daddy, which sent a deep chill down my spine. Since my cousin was now asleep, I plugged in my earbuds so she can sleep without having to hear anything. Normally an episode of Max and Ruby's would have 3 short stories, but this episode only had 1. It started off quite light-hearted. Max and Ruby were playing tag in the garden, and their parents were on the porch watching them play. However, something was off. The sound was playing in reverse, and the parents' faces were that of sadness. It panned to the mother and father, and in a voice of deep sorrow, the father spoke. "It's such a shame," he sighed. It then cut short to the sound of static and a loud scream, followed by the sound of 2 people choking. The sound felt so real it made me nearly physically sick. The scene then switched to Max and Ruby standing in front of what looked like a gravestone, labeled "Rest in Peace, Mommy and Daddy." The 2 of them had no faces. At this point, there was no sound apart from faint static. The scene remained on screen for about a minute and a half before it cut away into black. It then changed scene again, now showing Max and Ruby sitting in Ruby's room. Both of them were sobbing. The sobs were so realistic and heart-wrenching that it sounded like it was taken from a real person mourning. What happened next was probably the most disgusting, yet saddest thing I have ever witnessed. The scene had changed to Max sitting in his room. He was standing on a chair with a noose hanging from the ceiling. He had brought it around his neck. The scene faded to black and the static got louder. Almost instantly, it then cut to Ruby walking in on her brother. The scene cut to black with the loud static. When the screen returned, Ruby was standing, now on her own, in the garden by 2 gravestones. One was labeled "Rest in Peace, Mommy and Daddy," and the other "Rest in Peace, Brother." She then started to look at the camera with glowing blue pupils to speak to me. Well, whoever's watching this is because you never watched any of me and my brother's episodes, so one of these days, you will regret this. The screen faded black afterwards. At this point, I already had been sick and was sitting all shaken. The episode seemed to have come to an end at last, and as the Max and Ruby's theme song played slowly in reverse, I was about to eject the DVD when the same image came up like it did on the TV. This time, however, there was a text above the two rabbits that said, "Death is our only release." There was no credits or anything else. It stayed on this for a couple seconds before the DVD finally popped out on my laptop. I sat there, trying to contemplate what had happened. In my shock and fear, I made the stupid decision to break the DVD as much as I could before leaving the house. I shoved the pieces down the drain. Thankfully, I kept a few screenshots and saved them to my laptop. The next couple days went past without anything unusual happening. I had a few nightmares about the DVD, but luckily that was all. My cousin had gone back home along with the rest of the family. It was a late night, and my parents had gone out for dinner, leaving me to watch TV. I heard what sounded like someone posting something through the door. At this point, the DVD had left my mind since I had not told anyone about it. However, it all came flooding back when I looked down at the letter in front of me. It was just messily folded up, and it read, "Death is our only release." Well, my disciples, that was Maxim Ruby 0004 by Anonymous. And as I could say right now is that story was cliched garbage. That story was just horrible. And that which I remember reading this story so many years back when I was a kid, listing this story on the internet, and this story right here was just god awful and just so unoriginal, horrible. And considering that this story, it was originally meant to be decent, even though it was supposed to be a good story, and that which I remember when people said that this story used to be a good one until other authors and not analyze this even closer, and just they said that this game sucks. Well, not this. What am I saying with this game? But this story sucks for being god awful. And just it has poor writing. It was blasted for its poor writing and just how it got so popular with the community to begin with. So, my final thoughts is just this story was terrible, and that which it included so many cliches that I can't even sit there and count them and list them, because there's tons of them. And just what makes this horrible is that there's the violence, unnecessary violence, and the other part of it is just unnecessary death, and the lack of proper body parts and everything. The lack of proper body parts, which is the lack of the eyes and proper facial features, and just the horrible message of death is our only release. That bull crap. And that which, if you're trying to write a lost episode to creepypasta, then take notes and take what I say with into account. Just never write these kinds of stories ever. Don't write stories like this, because this story is a prime example of why you should always use your head and come up with new ideas, and not come up with crap that is just that you'll regret for the rest of your life. And just don't write stories like this at all. And the cliche counter the cliche counter is about, there are about 6 or 10 cliches in this story that I didn't even include into the cliche counter right now, though, but this story was just horrible. Horrible, and it should have never been written to begin with, and I don't understand how it got so popular with the community to begin with. And my final review of this story is just a 1.50 out of 10. And plus, I forgot to mention, the protagonist is stupid. The protagonist is stupid, and he's a complete idiot. Which, when they said that what Ruby was, the sounds were so realistic that made him sick. And that's stupid. That just sounds stupid, to be honest. And I would not get sick just from that. But the story should have the author should have thought about what they could have included to the story just to make it better. And thing is just that's the reason why the story sucks, and why it was blasted for its poor writing. And my disciples, if you want to share your opinion on this story in the comments section, then I'm completely fine. We have different opinions regarding these stories, and that it was just my thoughts. So I'll see you disciples in the next video, and sorry for being in a hiatus for a long time, because I was just doing important things, and I couldn't get the time to do what I love doing. So my disciples, I'll see you in the next video, and it's the Dark Warlock signing off for the next video, and I'll see you next time.